Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today I'm going to be discussing how LEGO Ninjago has stayed so fresh as a LEGO theme after being around for 10 years now at this point. And this kind of came up from an interview that was conducted by Tips and Bricks, which is an Instagram page that I will link down below, through an interview conducted through the LEGO Ambassador Network with a LEGO designer, Neek, and I'll be sure to put his name on screen as well so that you'll be able to see that. So thanks so much for this information here and for conducting this interview. All links will be down below for all of that, but I'm going to read out the question that they asked and then go over the information that was given for this, and then kind of give my own thoughts and sort of talk about how I think they can continue to make Ninjago as fresh as it's always been, with some ideas that I have for some future places that they can go with in the actual new seasons. But without further ado, let's get straight into it here. And the question that was asked was, Ninjago has a rich history of 14 diverse seasons. How do you make sure that you avoid making the themes and sets repetitive? And then the answer that was given for this was, I think it helps that LEGO designers are rotated around the teams, meaning we can keep all the recurring themes fresh as new minds work on them. All of our designers are able to bring their own unique interests and influences. Like, I'm very into sci-fi, but we have lots who are into fantasy, and I think that that helps create a lot of different flavors for the themes. So of course from this we can definitely see that of course they get a variety of different people working on Ninjago, so that you're able to have such a more set of diversity within the actual sets. And I think that's so great that they do that, because for one, it really helps with the storytelling aspect of Ninjago as well. Of course, you don't want every season of the show to just take place in Ninjago City. You want them to journey out to different locations, such as in Seabound, the island, things like that. So I definitely think this does open it up to kind of capture those different sort of locations within the actual sets and the show itself. And then also I think it really helps with changing sort of the tone of the show as well. Of course, depending on what Ninjago season you're watching, the tone can feel a little bit different as well, and I feel like that's influenced with whatever they're dealing with, and of course that's very much influenced by the actual sets and what's going on with those. So I think it all kind of ties together in its own sort of way, and I find that really interesting. So I want to kind of talk about how I think they can sort of continue this and give some of my own ideas that I might wind up expanding on at some point in the future, because I'm kind of like sort of making my own sort of theories of where they're going to take the future seasons. But one idea in particular that I have is for them to sort of have a Western styled Ninjago season. Of course, we've seen Ninjago tackle a lot of different themes and sort of ideas as well. Of course, we've had sort of a medieval sort of themed season with Master of the Mountain. We've had the Island, Seabound, just a whole bunch of different tones. But I think Western would be super interesting and kind of take the ninja out of their own depth as well, which I think would be really cool to sort of see. And I feel like you could tie this in with the Vengestone as well, because maybe they're mining out the Vengestone, and of course that's something that you would kind of do back then, I suppose, in sort of the West, kind of mining for oil. And I feel like maybe there could be some sort of similarity or connection there with how someone is getting a hold of this Vengestone. So I feel like that could make quite a bit of sense as well. And of course, in Master of the Mountain, we saw that of course the Skull Sorcerer was getting Vengestone as well, and hence the Skull Dungeon was underground as well. So maybe you could have something like that sort of tying it in to that storyline, because then it doesn't feel like we're just doing Western for the fact of, oh, Western's cool, so let's just put the ninja in that sort of spotlight, I suppose. But I think that also, I think it can sort of tie into the actual story and feel like a good continuation of that. And I think it would just be awesome to see what sort of design they would come up with for the ninja to sort of look like a Western sort of styled outfit. I think that would be really cool and kind of have a more sort of classic design to it. So I think that would be really interesting as well. And I think for the perspective of the sets as well, I feel like they would do quite well also, because of course a lot of people love like classic LEGO Western sets, and we haven't really seen too much of that. Of course, I can't even really think of anything too recently. Maybe I'm just blanking, but the last thing I can think of is like the Lone Ranger sets, and those were of course from quite a while ago. So I think it would be cool for them to expand into that with the actual sets, and then it would influence the show in a pretty cool way as well. And then in the way of other locations where I think they could sort of go as well, and other sort of themes they could take on, of course, space is a big one. I did do a separate video discussing that, so I won't elaborate too much with that one, but I definitely think there is a little bit of potential for them to go into space. Of course, it's not as likely just from what Tommy Andreasen has said, but still, I would never say that it is not impossible for them to wind up doing that, so I definitely think it could still potentially be on the table in some sort of way. But of course, within Ninjago, you can just open up entirely new areas as well. It doesn't even have to be something that's referencing a classic LEGO theme. It could just be an entirely new idea and location as well. So I think that definitely helps sort of spruce up the sets as well. And I think that can also give us more location builds as well, because that's something that people love to see from Ninjago. Of course, it's like the big sets like the Ninjago City, and I'm not talking about them having to do scale like that, but looking like Master of the Mountain, how we got, of course, the Skull Dungeon set, which was super popular, because with Ninjago we get a lot of vehicles, of course, dragons, the ninjas vehicles as well, so we see a lot of that, which I absolutely do love, but I think it could definitely add some variety as well, and I'm sure they're looking into doing that as well with what this sort of question ties back into, of sort of rotating out designers, so you're of course going to get new ideas and perspectives as well. But that's kind of just my general thoughts on this. I'm probably going to close it out here, and let me know all of your thoughts on how they sort of keep Ninjago feeling so fresh, and what sort of ideas do you have for the future of the series and the sets, and how they can sort of spruce it up as well. So thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like down below. Also subscribe as well if you would like to check out some of my other content. That would be highly appreciated. So thank you so much. I'll see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.